Thanks to being pulled in by David Mark Raymond, I got involved in the exchange program because I like young people, but they're like old people, sorry guys. And the first person that I sort of half shepherded through, this young man will see it, we'll talk to it in a few moments. It's been more than 2 years now since we started the process to try to find outgoing candidates, the process. And now he's back amongst us to tell us about what the exchange was like, his thinking about it, and what he thinks it means to the world, and why we should be a more wonderful program. So, with a brief biography, Ethan is the son of Ed Del Monte from the Annalee High School, music department. And wonderful family, got to meet them, and two little sisters that are missed him terribly until they had children. They can glom onto her for 3.5 months. So, without any further explanation, Ethan Del Monte, welcome. I know it's a little cumbersome and heavy, and it doesn't go through the airports very well.
Let's welcome Ethan.
How do you do? How do you do? Is there anything that we can do for you? Thanks for coming here today. We are with you all the way. How do you do, honor speaker? How do you do?
So I'm going to apologize right now. I have a slide that we haven't opened yet.
Okay.
Can you sing?
Can you sing?
A little soft shoe.
I think I'm going to remember that one. So, why the skeleton not cross the road? Why the skeleton not cross So my favorite joke was Brandis did this joke, said this joke. So the farmer had a bull,
It's an Italian joke, it's an Irish one.
We better call Candace in order to get it close.
Yeah.
It's not 10, but it's
Nothing to it.
So, Brazil can be summed up generally in about 4 words, maybe 5. Beaches, carnaval, soccer, and women, or for 5 words, the women. But for me, it was a lot more. Mostly because those things exist in the north and I live in the south. A lot of the stereotypical things that we think about Brazil are quite different actually. My life there was kind of like my life here because I lived in the Brazilian equivalent of Sonoma County. Very rural, everyone was very close, everyone produced agriculturally. We had a lot of wine, we had a lot of farms. So the experience for me was, it was easier to get into my life there because of how familiar I was with people and landscape. But Brazil has been a country for about the past 60 years. They have been a democracy, going back and forth between the military and the rule by the citizens. And so I came in at a transition where they're just adapting, so it was really strange for me to have a governing system that was still very unsettling, while at the same time watching the presidential elections. It's very interesting. So I lived in the state of Santa Catarina, which is between the 2 orange highlighted states. It is the 2nd smallest state in Brazil. Its population is about 6,700,000 people. And the capital, Florianópolis, is based on the center coast. It's a very wealthy state for Brazil. They produce a lot of products that get shipped throughout Brazil. And so my family owned pharmacies that would help provide medications for people in the Northwest, where medication and technological advancements were harder to come by. And then I lived in the city of Uruçanga. Uruçanga is a word in Guarani, which is a native language of South America. It really means river of blood. And there's a river that runs through the town, which, because of the iron content, makes the river a brownish red, which is how it got its name. The 2 pictures on the right represent the 2 landmarks that we have there. The one on the bottom is the arches that you see when you come in. And there are 3 separate arches representing the 3 cities that are part of the county that makes up Uruçanga. And then above that is the Church of Neves Marques. Inside that church, there is one of 3 known replicas of La Pieta by Michelangelo. It was given to this church by the Pope in 1962 because the Monsignor there was a close friend of the Pope before he was accepted to the church. For me, living in Uruçanga with a population of about 20,000 felt small enough to where I was familiar with a lot of people. Everyone knew me, even though I didn't know them. And it was really nice to have a sense of just being accepted into the community. Being able to have this chance to go on exchange and enjoy just everything that Brazil had to offer me was a very enlightening feeling, because up until this point I had never left the contiguous 48 states. I had never been in a place where speaking a different language was necessary. I've never been in a position where I am the minority. I've never been in such an uncomfortable situation that I've come to love. It was a whole experience over a year that a lot of people think is just a trip, but for me, it's a life that you have to live in a year, and then you have to go through the heartbreak of going home afterwards. You come home, and it's a very strange experience, because you come home to everything being the same. And at first, it's nice to have familiarity and constant constant routine in your life, but then it gets weird because you're so used to having something new every day, or meeting new people and everything, and coming back was a very, not difficult, but it was hard. I didn't fit in the same way that I did, because over my exchange, I met other exchange students from 9 different nationalities. There were 17 of us in my district. We had people from the Czech Republic, Denmark, Mexico, France, people from Taiwan, and it was very wholesome to have a group of people that knew exactly what you were going through. But to say goodbye to them, to say goodbye to my friends there, to say goodbye to my family, to my school, to my life, was very difficult. But I wouldn't give anything in the world for it. My life there, the moment that I got on the plane on August 22nd, 2016, the first thing that went through my head is, oh my God, why am I doing this? I was leaving a place that I had called home for 16 years of my life to go to a place that was basically selected for me. I had a little bit of say. And on that plane, I had to fly up to Canada, which was strange because that's the opposite direction. But the moment that I got from Canada and was flying into the international airport of Sao Paulo, I got the first real taste of what exchange was like, because very few people spoke English on that plane. And all the prep, all the Portuguese classes, everything that I had done didn't matter. I could not speak the language. I struggled so hard to talk to people. Making friends after I'd come into Brazil was extremely difficult, because at the school that I went to, it was a private school. There were maybe 1/5 of the students that Annalee has from K through 12. The people in the equivalent of high school there, it's about 40. There were 13 people in my graduating class, and that was including me. They're graduating this Friday too. I talked to them recently. And having such a small class after going to Annalee for 2 years, it was very weird, because at Annalee, there's always going to be someone that likes the same things as you, or has common interests, or that you can hang out with. And if it doesn't work out with one group, you can do it with another. You can have this chance to meet a lot of people. And that wasn't the case. Because it was a private school, everyone had known each other since they were 4 or 5, and I was the odd one out. I had to go through 4 months of them not talking to me. I had to go through this whole position of them not knowing what to do with me. Because not only was I a foreigner, I was a foreigner in a city that doesn't receive foreigners. I was the first exchange student in that city ever. So they were excited to see me, but they didn't know what to do with me. They had no idea how to talk to me or how to make me feel welcome. And so for a really long time, until I could speak Portuguese conversationally, I just dealt with it. I had so many problems in my school just because I could not communicate with them, and they didn't know how to communicate with me. Eventually, once we all graduated in November, we went off to summer. And I spent 2.5 months just going over Portuguese all the time, talking to as many people as I could. When friends came over, I would say everything that came out of my mouth, even if it wasn't grammatically correct. I just did whatever I could to learn the language, because you can't be part of a culture if you can't speak the language. You can try the food, you can know the music, but to really be a part and feel welcome, you need to be able to speak the language until you start speaking the slang. And for me, the moment that I started speaking the slang without thinking about it, I felt very accomplished. Because the way that we use the word like to fill in all of our sentences, especially among teenagers, they have the same word, it's chipu. And my grammar teacher once corrected me when I said that. And she was kind of mad, but I was thrilled. It was the greatest feeling because I didn't realize that I said it. And so like the little wins that I had just with the language or with making friends, that's what I realized that exchange was about. What Rotary does for exchange is to help spread world peace by sending the students abroad as ambassadors. And for me, sending me abroad and having to go through these hardships didn't take me down anywhere. It helped me realize that you have to go through difficult times to really appreciate the good ones. Struggling with the language, it was gonna happen. Most people don't speak Portuguese. For me, the moment that I learned it, it made it worthwhile. I felt like all of my effort to do this thing and to be immersed in this culture, and it finally paid off. For my students that didn't accept me, they, for whatever reason, they had their reasons, and once I was able to speak Portuguese with them, I was able to explain to them how I felt. I was able to reconnect with them on a whole new level, and I was able to make friends. Even though it was late, I was able to do it, and I was happy about it. For my exchange students that were with me, I was the only exchange student in about a 40-mile radius for the first 4 months of my exchange. The closest person lived in a slightly bigger city called Tubarão, and it was 60 kilometers away. So I was very isolated from people that understood what I was going through. I only ever stayed with one host family. For Felicia and Malene, I'm assuming that they had maybe 3 or 4 host families. When I arrived, because I was the first exchange student in my town, I was told that I would only have one host family. And at first, I was very disappointed. I wanted to have that experience of being able to have multiple host families to understand what family life is like. And the worst fear that I had was, what if I didn't like them? What if they didn't like me? Now I have to live with them for a year, and I can't do anything about it because there's no one else that will take me. About a month in, I was so happy that I wasn't switching families. My host mom and my host dad, they took care of me. I don't want to say better than my own parents. But they took care of me really well. They made me feel like a part of the family. There are a lot of pictures that I took while I was on exchange. But if you look in the bottom middle left, you'll see a picture of me with a little baby. That is my nephew. My host sister gave birth to him, and I saw him the very next day. I was the first person to hold him up other than his own mother. To feel that connection with a family, to have a bond with my host family that was stronger than I could have gotten if I had switched families, it's something that I wish that every exchange student could have. Unfortunately, there are exchange students that have host families that they don't get along with for whatever reason. But for me, I was lucky enough to have a host family that loved me and wanted me to have a good exchange. They took me places, they showed me things, they let me be an exchange student. And I was very grateful for them. And I love them for that. With the other exchange students, we would go on trips just like the exchange students here do. And we would go to, mostly they were natural places. Like we went to Foz do Iguaçu, which is one of the 7 wonders of nature. And it is just a giant ring of waterfalls. There are 4 different locations where the waterfalls run down, and you can get right up to them and you can feel the spray, or you can go on a boat ride and go underneath them. And so when I went with the other exchange students, all of us were excited to see this place. We were all excited to have a new experience, and because of that, we all got along really well. We were able to feel this connection between us that you cannot feel with any other person because you cannot understand the feeling that you get when someone understands everything about you. All of your hardships, all of your pain, all of your joy, everything. Exchange students have this bond where all of us can talk about it, and we know that the other person will understand. We have this connection that even after we go back to our host countries, even after we go back home, we still are connected, and years can pass, and we'll still meet up and pretend like nothing has happened. My life there, it was short, but it was good. To skip a year of school, honestly, was good enough for me. To get out of this bubble of my life here in Sonoma County was good enough for me. But I had no idea what was in store. Being an exchange student where people want to meet you and don't understand you gives a perspective of what the world is like, and how, despite everything that we go through on a daily basis, we can still be part of each other's lives. Not phrase that well. We can be whole. With exchange students, my group, no matter what our nationality was, no matter what our views we were all connected because of exchange. We lived without borders, without judgment, without bigotry or injustice. We lived just as friends, which I think is what the whole point of exchange is. It's supposed to be living with peace. It's supposed to be living with a point in life where you don't have to worry about who you are or where you're from or what you're doing, but that no matter what, people will accept you. And on my exchange, I was very accepted by my family, by my friends, by my school, by the other exchange students. And it was a wonderful experience. That's all I have for right now, but I have take questions. Yeah.
So Portuguese, is it because you've learned Portuguese, do you think you'll be able to learn some other languages? Is it close to any other languages?
So Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, and French are all based off Latin.
Yeah.
I spoke Spanish before I left on exchange, so learning Portuguese was a little bit easier because they share a lot of the same spelling rules and conjugation rules, but it was the pronunciation that was very difficult. And then there were some words that just were so different. Like, for example, in Spanish, chicken can be pollo. In Portuguese, it's frango. There are some words that are just on opposite sides of the spectrum. You can't really tell. But then there are some that are spelled exactly the same and are pronounced very differently. Like in Spanish, there's a word la gente. In Portuguese, it's spelled the same way, G-E-N-T-E, but it's pronounced gente. So there were rules that I had to adapt to, and whenever I didn't know a word, I would just guess in Spanish and hope that it was right.
I saw some photographs of you singing and doing music. Did music provide a bridge for you?
Music was definitely a good bridge for meeting with people and kind of having a common base to work off of when language was a problem. So like, I played piano, and then I learned to play guitar there because pianos are not a household common instrument. And so I was able to bond with a couple of my classmates because they all played guitar, and so I would bring a guitar every once in a while and we'd all play together. My host brother, who was in New Zealand for a year, returned in January. He helped me learn guitar, and so that was a really good bonding experience with him because I had never had a brother before. I have 3 sisters here, so it was a very interesting but nice transition. My host mom sang, and she played guitar. My best friend would sing. And so music was a really good bridge for me. Yeah.
Can you do the samba? Can you do the samba now?
Oh, can I do the samba? I can. I don't want to.
You know that.
You need some music for that.
Yeah, exactly.
How about food, different types of food?
So there are a couple different staple foods. Rice and beans are very common. They have a dish called feijoada, which is beans, rice, and assorted meats that are mixed in, and it's kind of like a soup. And then during winter, they'll take away a lot of the water and then add a kind of flour to it that makes it thicker, and then that's called minestra. Brazilian barbecues are very common everywhere. Almost every household has some kind of barbecue either outside or in the house. So my host dad was probably the best guy for that job. Every Sunday we would have a barbecue. Anytime we had a party, he would barbecue. He was amazing, and they have a lot of meats that aren't common here. Here we like having muscle, we like having steak, but there they have chicken hearts is common. Different kinds of sausages based on other meats, tongue, liver, a lot of different meats that a lot of people aren't comfortable eating here. But you get used to it. And that's actually pretty good. Yeah. Okay.
That's about all. We have one more task for you here, and that is to, we have a raffle. And as of last week, we had $268 in kitty, plus there was more taken in today, and we had 11 cards left. So, pick a card, any card, pick a ticket, and read it off.
6688 100.
And by the way, the consolation prize, in case you don't win, is a bottle of plum cider from Jim Glom. Can you give us one next time? And we are looking for Ace of Hearts, and we'll mix it up here. Okay. All right, Gus. Ace of Hearts. That's for. Now that's a Rotarian. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? She's getting the money too. Well, what a deal. Thank you, Gus. Late Teen Joker Day, Judy Rice.
All right, we got, oh, I can do it without mine. I've got two quick groaners. Let's see, what do you get when you cross an insomniac, an agnostic, and a dyslexic? Someone who lies awake at night wondering if there really is a dog. And the other one, which I dedicate to PJ, did you hear about the cowboy who got himself a dachshund? All around him, he kept hearing people say, "Get along, everybody."
And mine is statistically 6 out of 7 dwarfs aren't happy.